Welcome to Beyond Six Figures, the podcast that helps business coaches to micro-niche, get noticed, and become fully booked. Learn from top industry leaders who've successfully taken their businesses and their lives beyond six figures. Get ready to level up your coaching business and make this world a better place, one business at a time. And now, here's your host, Ziv Raviv.
Hello, and welcome to Beyond Six Figures. Our guest today is KC Rossi, founder of HeartGlow CEO. She's a seasoned entrepreneur who built a seven-figure gourmet food company and now helps mission-driven leaders grow profitable, burnout-free businesses. Through her SoulPrint Method, KC combines mindset, emotional intelligence, and strategic coaching to help clients lead with clarity and confidence. She's been featured on major media outlets, and she hosts Women Developing Brilliance, a show for purpose-led leadership. Let's dive into how she helps entrepreneurs align purpose with profit. Hello, KC Rossi. How are you?
I'm doing great, Ziv. Thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here with us. I always love to learn about that moment in time, the transition, if you will, where you became an operator, a business owner, like someone that actually creates stuff in this world, to someone that facilitates growth of other companies. So what is your story of transforming into a coach?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So I started my first corporation at 19, and my business partner and I had 10 different businesses together. And then there was this point where I wanted to have a little bit more independence, creative freedom. And at the time, our kind of top business was chocolate manufacturing, which we did for 17 years. And there became a point in my life where I was like, I'm a little bit out of alignment in selling sugar. And so I wanted to do something that was more holistic, transformative, and something that really helped people from the inside out. So that's the point where I was like, you know what? There is this level of coaching that is needed. Specifically, the industry that I was interested in at the time in 2016 was aromatherapy, because I also had an aromatherapy business. And I saw that there were many people going into have to fields, like coming from the 9 to 5 and wanting to go into their passion job, but they didn't really quite know how. They had their new certificate, whether they were into yoga therapy or nutrition or aromatherapy, but they weren't quite sure how to make that transition. So to answer your question, I was like, you know what? I can take my business experience with the previous 20 years and help this very specific niche and move from there. So that's really how the transition happened.
I love it. So you basically had experience with multiple businesses, but you took one of those experiences where you actually know what you're doing. You actually run an aromatherapy business, and you turn that into something that you're passionate about, that you can help other people. Now, a lot of people might be listening to this and say, well, I'm a business coach. I want to get more clients. Every business owner in the world thinks that that's their problem, that they need more clients. And sometimes that's not what they really need, but that's what they think. So let's run with it. Mm-hmm. And they have maybe a passion project of sort. They have something they are really interested in or some experience with. But in your case, what did you actually need to do to get your first client in aromatherapy?
That's such a great question. So one of it was to be noticed on the scene. So before I really even had a step-by-step strategy, I just started doing things that felt right, that felt natural. One of it was connecting with people. And so then once you start connecting with people, it's like, okay, there's a need. So I became a speaker. I became a writer for the international publications. I started showing up at trade shows where you can actually hug people and connect and have this personal connection. And so I think that for me, that was part of this success strategy that I really wasn't even aware of. It wasn't conscious. Afterwards, I was like, oh, there was a step-by-step strategy to that. But in the beginning, it was literally like, do what feels good, go where the people are, show up and be a bright light and serve. And so once that started to happen, there was a ripple effect of the know, like, and trust factors, okay, there's some content here that seems really valuable. How can I get into her world more? What offerings does she have? And then it just grew from there.
How long did it take, though? Because what you described was, for me, it was poetry. That was beautiful. But it does take time sometimes, and it can be frustrating to do it and to trust the process when you don't see the results yet, and you're building up your reputation. So how long did it take to you to start seeing some traction?
About 6 months. But that was something where I was really dedicated and focused. And one of the things, and you probably can relate to this too, Ziv, is like, we can't sit back and be passive. So for me, if you're going to be a player, be on the scene. Be on the scene, be active, be available. It can't just be dip your toe in, come back, dip your toe and come back, because that's the kind of results that you will see. So if you're looking for consistent clients or revenue, you have to be consistent in your presence, in your connections, in your follow-up. So I'm a big believer that energy follows energy and like begets like. So if you're looking for consistency, part of that is you showing up consistent.
How would you recommend, if someone is hearing this and they're considering, I want to be consistent. I want to go, not just dip my toe in, but I still want to keep my money-making business. What did you do? Did you actually leave everything? You had 10 businesses. Did you leave it all behind?
I did, actually. And that was a bold move. And it was really interesting because I'm a Taurus, so I really love security and stability. So that was an even bolder move. But we had an opportunity to sell the chocolate manufacturing company in 2011. And so we took it. And so there was this clean break where there wasn't this plan B. So part of that, I think, for me was putting all of my eggs in one basket gave me that luxury to be fully on the scene. Some people don't have that. And I don't necessarily feel like that's the way. One of the things is we always have to follow our own bandwidth and know our own personality. That's how we're going to gain sustainable success. That would be too jarring for some people. And in that way, we want to honor and respect the bandwidth of that. And so one of the things, Ziv, is I'm a huge believer of diversifying income streams. So at the time, I was a full-time Airbnb host. So I had another source of income as well. So there were different areas where if we're looking at diversifying our portfolio as an entrepreneur, it's great to have multiple streams. So in that, for me, it was a clean break, no plan B, pedal to the metal. But then as I've grown, I'm a huge believer in diversifying income, doing it in a way that matches what you have. And if someone has their 9 to 5, let's say they have their 9 to 5, but they're like, what can I energetically commit to that feels right to me? Maybe it's 2 hours in the evening. Maybe it's just a 4-hour time block on a Saturday. That's awesome. If you commit to focused, uninterrupted time blocks, you can be super productive, even in 4 hours on a weekend. And then part of it, and this is a thing I think that I see a lot, is we tend to be really hard on ourselves as entrepreneurs, and we beat ourselves up probably more than most people. And so if you commit to, say, 4 hours on a Saturday because that's what you have, then be awesome with it. Be okay with it. Lean into it. Don't have this guilt trip of, oh my gosh, I should be doing more. And oh, it would be going so much faster if. So part of it is understanding your personality, honoring that bandwidth, and then really accepting and giving yourself self-grace for that time block, and then being focused in that time block.
I love how sensitive you are to the fact that not everyone can be KC. Not everyone will have the same past, the same assets, the same skills, and people really need to find their own way to transition into this. At the same time, there's this saying of burn the boats, right? When you decide to go all in and really be present, there's something very authentic about it. There's something very real about it, very very raw even. So I want to ask you something. One of the objections that many people have when they choose their niche, or even, I dare say, micro niche, is the size of the tribe, the size of the audience. When you went into aromatherapy, knowing that you are planning to become a successful, busy, fully booked coach in the aromatherapy niche, how many people do you think are in this niche that are professional and can basically afford working with you?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And I have to say that I have since pivoted, although I do have a lot of healers on my client roster. But at the time, it felt a little scary, like it was a hyper niche, especially because at that time, there weren't a lot of six-figure aromatherapists. There really still isn't. It's an industry where there's a lot of heart, but not necessarily a lot of cash to back up the income. So for me, I had a high ticket program. So there was a little bit of like, wait, is that going to work? Because I'm looking at healers who have blocks that maybe this is going to be a little rub against their spirituality, have a block that as a healer, should they be profiting over other people's pain? So there was quite a little bit going on there. I think one of the things that I had to kind of take my own medicine is trust yourself. Trust yourself, trust your value, and do not price based on what you think that the market can afford. Price on the value that you're bringing. So for me, I could be fully booked with my high ticket program with 10 clients a year. So when you really think about the millions of people in our universe, you have to ask yourself, can I attract 10 or 12 clients? So I think part of it is a little bit of a mindset thing. At this point, I have really expanded who I serve. And like I said, there are a lot of healers, but also back to your point of understanding your bandwidth, the people that tend to gravitate to me now are highly sensitive people. They have some neurodivergence going on. They're ready to claim their identity. This has now opened it up in a little bit more of a broader way.
Interesting. So you actually, over the years, evolved from this micro niche. You call it hyper niche. I'm calling it micro niche of aromatherapy. And as you said, many of the aromatherapy businesses, I'm just going to throw a number out there, like as a guess, as a guess in micro niching, probably 95%, maybe even more of those of people in this field, they are making 5 figures, right, a year. And in order for them to work with you, they probably need to be making 6 figures or even 7 or more. I'm making a few assumptions here just for like assessing the decision. So over time, you started to slowly transition into additional niches where nowadays successful people that are a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more are drawn to your connection to the world that is more spiritual or more energetic or whatever you care to call it yourself, more soul and centric and heart centric, as you call it, HeartGlow CEO. Those people are able to be attracted to you, and you only need 10, as you just said. And that's something I think we're very lucky as business coaches and as coaches in general, that we actually don't need to convince thousands of people. So what are some of the things that you do to get those people to be attracted for you? Because I know you can't really find them on an ad and say, hey, are you neurodivergent and sensitive? And are you, so how do you do it? How do you get busy?
So part of it is really being seen and being authentic and not being afraid to go deep. That is something that's really important. I'm not a fan of surface. And so I think even in social media and how I build the brand, it's really for people that are willing to do the hard work. And a lot of that contains some healing and some personal development. I would say majority of the clients that I work with, we're really looking at root causes going much further than life and leadership wheels and personal assessments. And I'm not knocking that in any way. I think there's an absolute value for those and a time for those. But a lot of times our blocks that keep us from that next level, whether it is the money mindset or whether that is the imposter syndrome, the things that I often see hold people back, they are really something that is at a deeper level. So part of it is being able to talk about at a deeper level and take away any stigma when it comes to bandwidth and things that maybe looked like a weakness in the past. Part of my philosophy is unsubscribing from outdated paradigms that no longer serve us. And it takes some time to peel back the layers and be willing. To me, it also affects us on a cellular level. So yes, we can talk about strategy. Absolutely. I help my clients with their funnels and their copywriting and all the things. But for me, the most transformative piece is that kernel of inner healing and a client that's willing to go there.
I love the fact that you know what's important for you. You know what is your kernel, your core of your activities, and what you're trying to do is not bring in people that are interested in just the tactical level of, oh, so here's a funnel that you can use with a webinar and a lead magnet. But you actually know that you have to go deeper than that. And one of the risks that people have these days as coaches is rely heavily on AI. How do you personally, KC, ensure that you actually go deep and be authentic while there's AI out there just waiting for you to ask for some copy for some post?
I love this question. I'm very passionate about my response. And for me, I think that we need to use these tools in a way that does not diminish our internal power and know-how. I am a fan of not outsourcing our intelligence. And so part of when I think of AI is great for certain things. I happen to be a manifesting generator, which is just a human design category. And so back to the point of knowing who you are, for me, I respond well. That's how I work best. Like this, you're asking me a question, I get to respond. This is unscripted, but I get to respond, which is awesome. And knowing that if I am lacking motivation, I may use AI to give me a prompt so I can think and respond to it. When we're talking about AI and coaching, I would rather see AI as our authentic intelligence, not artificial intelligence, because the soulpreneurs that I support are craving connection. They want to be authentic. We can't have authenticity with fake. That's why I'm a huge fan of not using filters, not using avatars, not over editing anything. Even my HeartGlow CEO podcast, my interviews are unedited. This is raw, real, unscripted. And for me, that's what's really important. That being said, if I get stuck, if there's a piece where it's like I'm recapping session notes, I will type my session notes out first, then run it through chat and say, what am I missing? But I will be the originator. I will be the author. And then I'm a forever learner. So if there's a gap, I want to know what the gap is. So I personally use AI as a kind of fact checker or after the fact, because I don't want to lose my edge. I still want to have the juices flowing. I want to have zest and passion. The other thing is, the more and more people use AI, there's going to be such a flatness and a genericness to our words, to our copy. And I love language too much to disrespect it in that way. I want to know who you are. I want to know your thoughts. I don't care about perfect punctuation and then like language that sounds right, but you would never talk like that. I'm going to pick up on that in a second. And I don't want people to feel that for me. Like a thing that I'm really passionate about, and this even goes back to the over-edited headshots. If I meet you, Ziv, I want you to look like you. I want you to look like the person that I landed on your website or that I enjoyed your podcast. And I want people to, when they meet me, be like, oh, that's KC. You look just like your headshot.
I love it. Calling AI like the authentic intelligence and using it as something that supports you, but keeping your energy, your essence, your zest. as you called it, makes so much sense to me, and something that I hope that everyone are encouraged to do as well. I want to ask you about your podcast. Is it something that is hard to do in terms of, for you, in terms of actually getting people to say, yes, I want to be on your show? And what are some of the tips and strategies you can share to make it easier?
Yeah, awesome. It's not hard actually to get guests. In fact, if anything, I have to say right at this time, we're not accepting, guest interviews. I've become very particular about that because in the beginning, I was like, yeah, let's do this. But as you know, it takes also a lot of time and energy. So I'm very, very specific. If I find that someone's going to bring a tremendous amount of value in an area that I know my audience would appreciate, and like if we can go deep and they're willing to get expansive within 30 minutes, then it's like an absolute yes. Otherwise, I feel like at this point of my growth, I have a lot to say. And so I do less and less interviews. There is a point where I think that kind of is the transition, because in the beginning, I told you I was in that dynamic duo with my business partner for so many years. So one of the struggles I had was like, who am I outside of a partnership? And part of like understanding my own voice was being able to do solo casts. And that took me probably a year and a half. I did exclusive interviews for the first year and a half of my podcast. And then there was like this growth opportunity, like knock, knock, who's KC without being the cheerleader for her guest? I'm an awesome cheerleader. But when I had to step back and be like, what do I have to say? And I think too, a couple of years ago, I had throat cancer and I had to have my thyroid removed. And this was a big universal message of, am I suppressing my voice? And now it's my opportunity to lean into what my truth is. So more and more I do solo casts because of my personal history.
Wow. Changing from being a cheerleader in a duo, in a partnership, and it makes so much sense. A lot of partnerships work with some dynamic like that, to being your own cheerleader in a way and finding your own voice. That is something that is very inspiring and practical and useful to just remember we need to be our own cheerleaders sometimes. And because there's a lot that goes into running a business and creating this content and being out there and being authentic, being vulnerable. What are some, if you don't mind, like us going into some stories from your clientele, what are some successes or transformations that you are proud of recently?
Yeah. So one that comes to mind was a brilliant leader in the executive space at the director level. And she always had amazing metrics that were just off the charts, always had high scores, strong leader. And one of the things that we identified very quickly is that there was a little bit of an abrasiveness to her leadership style. It was just straight on, strong. And that was pretty intimidating for a lot of people on the team. And so part of our work together was really understanding the nature of that, the protection aspect, how being guarded kept her safe, but it also was this barrier that didn't allow people in. And it was a really interesting conundrum, Ziv, because so much of her values were based in mission, but it was supporting other people. And this kind of went right back to, how do you support yourself? How do you let yourself receive? And the other big piece is, how do you give what you haven't given to yourself? And so there was this aspect of, yes, she can get her work done, be super strong, be very black and white, come home and feel empty. And so we really worked on this piece of giving and receiving, understanding how you can still be strong and soft simultaneously, and that it was not a weakness. And there was a lot of layers. And like I said before, part of this is, I think what made her such an excellent client, I'm actually still coaching her, is her willingness to be honest, her willingness to be vulnerable. And this goes, to anything. This goes into whether you're an entrepreneur or director, the radical honesty is really what's going to help you move the needle towards your success.
I love it. In a way that is so characteristic with you, KC. Your first case study that comes to mind is not about this client make this much money in this much time, and it's more about being open to evolving and being open to identifying within you the ability to be strong and soft at the same time, and leadership transformation of sorts. Where can people go to learn more about what you do, KC?
Awesome. Can I just share one thing based on what you just said?
Yes, please.
I love that you said that. And I actually just want to say that, I come from a family of financial analysts. So my father is 83. He still works full time as a stockbroker. My brother's in the financial industry. And so metrics are really a variable that many people measure success. Part of my philosophy is holistic wealth. Is financial success a piece of that? Absolutely. But it's 1/6 of the puzzle in my book. To me, you bring you with you wherever you go. And when you can sort out the inner kernels, finances will absolutely come. It'll be a natural result. So I just want to say that because the inner transformation is what really motivates me. But absolutely, financial freedom is something that people come to me for. We just go about it in a little bit of a reverse engineer kind of a way. So anyway, just wanted to say that. Thank you for identifying it. And people can find me all over social and on my website at HeartGlow CEO.
I love it, KC. And the holistic approach in general is something I share your sentiment to it. A lot of times figuring out something related to you loving yourself and you understanding where you are in this world, and suddenly some huge breakthrough in your business can happen as a result of that. That happened to me personally as well. So I want to just thank you for your time and let everyone know that in the show notes, we will include the links to your website and to your social media account, so you can go ahead and check that out. Thank you again, KC, for being here. And thank you, everyone, for listening for another episode of Beyond Six Figures.
Thanks for listening to Beyond Six Figures. Check out the extended show notes that include bonus material, practical tips, and exclusive resources on our website, zivraviv.com. Until next time, keep dreaming big and pushing your business and your life beyond six figures.